Hey friends, my name is Allison Steele, and you're listening to Unravel with Allison. Unravel with Allison is a show where I take a concept that's got me in knots, and we unravel it together. Thanks for being here. Good morning. It may not be morning, but we should talk about waking up. In the spiritual community, we talk a lot about the awakening. Whatever sprung you to become a part of that community, that is your awakening. And a lot of folks have an awakening that is equivalent to a rock bottom, when something gets so bad that you have no other choice but to look in a new direction, and you start seeing something else. It's like you wake up from a dream and you realize there's something else to do, somewhere else to go, something else to see, a new reality right in front of you. But part of waking up, I know I was going to shut off that narrative of not being a morning person, but I'm going to use that experience here to help describe what that's like. Because in the morning, I don't know when I gained consciousness, but I'm doing certain behaviors that I don't remember doing. I'm taking action that I don't remember taking. And they're patterns that my body knows, and it's like they're happening without my permission. So when you identify what permission means, it's per mission, per event. It's not an open invitation. It's not a constantly welcomed thing. So it's frustrating to not have the mentality to offer that allowance and to just have it be a pattern that seems that I don't have. It feels like I don't have any control over it. I'll be up and walking around and like, yes, I'm awake. And I don't know how to trigger myself to do that earlier. I've been practicing some new things though, new practices before I go to bed, and what to tell myself when I do gain consciousness and try to, I'm making up a lot of stuff right now and trying it out to see if it works. The healthy habits that I've read about and that I know are good practices don't help very much. So I'm trying to rewrite the story on my own. But that part of waking up is very frustrating when you don't give yourself permission to behave in that manner. I would rather be awake. I don't want to turn my alarms off. I don't want to turn over when my kid is trying to wake me up. I don't want to be mean to someone that's in the room. And I am. But I don't do it consciously. I'm in bed and it's embedded. And that's how the reality feels when you first start waking up. When you start to see stuff for what it is and how the situations that you're in are because of you and your behaviors. When you start to put it all back on yourself and realize yes, there are other people in my life that have contributed to my situation, but this exact part right here, it's all on me. And how I choose to see it today and tomorrow and the next day, that's all on me too. It's like the first time you realize you have a choice. Not even that, because sometimes you just start seeing these different pockets. And I was trying to discover which pocket was the right pocket. What niche did I need to lean into? What group should I trust and explore with? What religion made the most sense to me? Whose opinions I trusted and whose I didn't. There was this big scale of things that I cared about exploring. And to explore it, you learn it along the way. And that part of it is very fun. But you're still waking up. You're still rubbing your eyes wait, what is that? Oh, okay. And then it's you see it, and then it's grounding, but it doesn't reinforce the belief system that you just learned about, for me at least. But then you get to this point where yeah, you're awake. And the line for me was when the fog lifted and I felt okay, I can understand matrices and how this is all interconnected. And yeah, it's hard to get past the point where you're people are choosing every behavior. We don't have to do any of this. Technically, we do because we're all agreeing, but yeah, we don't have to. But you can't bypass that entirely because there are certain things that you can't get away from. Those are my biggest hurdles of, okay, I'm in this situation and I can't undo it. Where do I go from here? I know where to go from here to get money, but I don't like the ways that I get money. So trying new routes of that and then having it not really work out, or not having the confidence in it, or just not even seeing a route, but still trying anyway and putting it out there and having it fall through, it knocks you down a peg. It makes you not want to try because you're man, everybody just agrees to this. And you can see how it works for some people, and you can maybe even see how it works for you. But are you willing to do that? Because I'm at this point right now where I need income. And I've chosen not to do that because I wanted to focus on my education and what I can create when I have the capacity to create. And I don't have that capacity. I don't have that space anymore to do that in the way that I hoped I could. And I have guidance and I have support and I have a lot of opportunities. But again, it's what are we fighting for? Because it does feel like a fight still. The other day I read that you haven't fully integrated something until you stop judging others for it. And that made a lot of sense for me because I have a backlash. Almost every time I overcome something in myself, when I sense it from another person, like I'm mentally not making judgments, but I'm feeling in my body what it felt like to be in that position. And I get scared. Like my body reacts in a way as if there's somebody chasing after me. It's the same like fight or flight response. All that stuff starts triggering and I don't recognize the thing that is triggering me. I'm just uncomfortable. So I take that in with another person and I fight with it. I fight back. I try to face it because I don't understand what it is and I don't want to be scared. And I'm ready to face it, but I don't know what it even is. And most of the time, it's something that my body knows I tried to get rid of. My body's trying to protect me, like, hey, it's back again. And not the person. The person isn't bad. But that energy that you just learned how to transmute and finally overcame it for yourself, that your body recognized as a difficult process, now it's back in your field and you have to face it again. But if I can't recognize it as such because my body's being too loud about you're scared and run, it's like you're waking up all over again. You're still in a dream state and your body is just trying to keep you alive. It's trying to give you exactly what you want. But it makes participating with other people kind of difficult, especially in the family unit. If it's stuff that you've held on to for a long time, it will absolutely turn around almost immediately. And that's really hard. It's hard to face, and it's hard to face in another person. And then when you get to the point where you can see like, oh, this is my problem. This was like even if you don't think the judgment, if you're scared, somewhere inside, you're still making the judgment. It hasn't been integrated. It's still important to develop that relationship with your mind and your body and keep that channel clear so they have an opportunity to communicate. But our brains are like computers. We're the processors. It's processing our information. So if it's still showing up in this way, then it's still being viewed in that way. So even though you've transmuted and expelled it, you haven't integrated its allowance. You haven't given it permission to exist without the ability to hurt you. You're still afraid of it, or you're still ashamed of it. So even though you were able to get it out and express it, it's not gone because you still give it permission to scare you. And when you can recognize that, yeah, this is something I don't want in my life, but it's out of my hands, then it's out of your responsibility. You do have the ability to respond. Choose not to. Recognize that you have a choice. And when you are standing there scared or feeling angry or feeling mad or ready to face something that you don't know what it is, if you can't face it because you can't see it, you have to step away. You have to start asking yourself these questions because when you ask, you'll get the answers. But if you're not asking, nothing's happening. You're just standing there with a flashlight, waiting for something to come get you that doesn't exist. Or that does exist, but can't hurt you if you don't give it permission to. I have a tendency to hold other people in higher esteem than myself, and I know that I've been able to get past a lot of different things. And it's like, man, if I have the capacity to do it, I have to have faith that these other folks do too. So even when somebody puts themselves in a victim mentality, I just have faith that they're able to pull out of it. Because if I was able to, they should be able to. And not because I'm awesome, but because I suck. So if I was able to do it, like, you got this. When you do have that calm and that peace of mind and you see everything for what it is, like, it does become a very fun playground. I started exploring all these different systems and tried to see how there was overlap or how they tied together. And the first time I did this, like, I thought I was unlocking some big stuff. And it was just some basic alignment that I was just like, this just makes too much sense. There's no way this could have been overlooked. So then I write it out and I draw it out and I try to understand it. And then I'm like, oh, yep, this is it. This is it. This is exactly what that's saying. That's exactly what this is saying. This is all made up from the same idea. And this is the idea. And it's the story of creation, or all of our laws, or all of our rules, or all of our development, any of our structural history. When I say it all comes from the same place, it's like everybody's making stuff up. That's all anybody's doing. We're all just making it up. We're developing a story, carrying it out. We're all just making stuff up. We're all just getting new ideas and doing different things. And in that, we don't understand the physical development that happens. We don't understand how it changes our physical matter and our mental matter. And as this density continues to form in our body to combat what we've always been able to do, and we try to outsource that too, like people think maybe one day we'll be able to communicate telepathically. If you pause for a moment and sit with somebody and don't try to telepathically communicate, but just intentionally relax together and talk about your ideas 20 minutes later, there's overlap. This stuff is shared. If you're quiet enough, you can hear it. If you release your judgments, you can understand it. But we actually make those little tiny ideas into these big grand things that we think are going to be the answer. And that's really not the point. The point is sourcing the new ideas and expressing those and sharing those and understanding how this works. The more density that we add on to it, the more mechanical we get, the more technical we get, the worse it gets for us. The more insistent we become, the harder it is for this matter to express in different ways because we expect consistency. And then you get over things like Freemasons and the Illuminati and stuff like that because you can see how there's a realm where that exists. And this ties into it also, as in building structures and expecting to see those every single day because we don't expect matter to morph. Like there's a structural integrity not only to the physical matter that we can feel and see, but there's a cosmic one also. If things can just appear in the sky or appear in the forest, they could appear all around us. But everything is so dense and we have cultivated that density. We have come to expect it. And we expect the same stuff over and over. We're excited about structure and routine. We want science to be exact and repetitive and insistent to prove it. Proving it is not the point anymore. But now it's like there's a constant insomnia of like, wow, I'm really not grounded right now, where I can tell that this is keeping me up at night. This is keeping me up during the day. This is my focus. When you get tied on to one of these ideas or one of these like real life structural things that you can't break free of, it feels like insomnia. It feels like insanity because on your best level, you know that we don't have to do this. But to see, or to even try to have conversations or to see arguments online about it, it's like it's not a topic to bring up. And the second that you do, worst case scenarios come raining down. We don't expect each other to be good to people. We don't expect each other to take care of each other. It's like we got too big at one point when we just started doing this separation thing. We separated so small, we forgot we separated to begin with. And then we try to cluster, and we're clustering in these groups that are meant to be intertwined and meant to be intermeshed. There's still this feeling of loneliness and isolation, like we're supposed to all be working together. You're supposed to be able to face people that you don't like. You're supposed to be able to tolerate existence. And I don't know why that's a big ask, but we're so far into this story that it's twisted and convoluted with every single person that exists. We all have our own ideas of what is real and what is actual and what exists in our field of existence. It's like when the whole world seemed to change after a world fair, that's because there was a collective. We all came together, then all scattered out with these brand new ideas of what could it mean, what could it be. Those things start happening, and it wasn't supposed to happen on a grand scale like that. And then we get the internet, and now everybody has access to everything. And we all think that it matters or doesn't, but now it's just all gray. It's like if we had our own individual spark, we were just like one color at one point, and like, okay, now the blues are hanging out with the blues and the reds are hanging out with the reds. There's just these different pockets. Like if you look at the world, there's just different bubbles of color, like a spray paint. And it's supposed to be separate so when we get together, we can share together. Like this idea of like people in the US only being taught English is really weird And the way that we're taught second languages is not helpful. I didn't retain it at all. And I cared to. I would like to. I thought it would be fun to. But I didn't. And the people that do speak more than one language have such a beautiful way of looking at it. Like there was a guy I worked with who spoke Spanish. And when a Spanish-speaking customer came in, I was like, oh, let me go get Josh. And Josh was so excited to practice talking to somebody, to have successful communication. What a thing to look forward to. And I have a hard time just understanding people with heavy accents, speaking my language. Like people in other countries are walking around asking, what language do you speak? So they can play and practice together. And we're like, okay, TikTok or Facebook. And we're just doing the same shit over and over and sharing the same stuff, but we're not having those real human experiences. We're not sharing expression in those ways. We assume and define and move on. And when you find people that you're able to create with, it makes all the difference in the entire world. I still haven't gotten to the point where I know how to function in society anymore. Like I don't know what to do. I know that I can, and I know that I can power through it. And I know that I can change my mindset to tolerate it in a more beautiful way than I have before. But it's uncomfortable when nothing feels right. Even if nothing feels particularly wrong, it all feels possible. It's hard to opt into something that doesn't feel good over and over so that your existence is tolerated. So I use these mantras like keep on keeping on, and it is what it is. And I don't feel bad about saying those things because I can understand like, okay, I get it. Now what are we going to do with it? I don't always choose me. But every time I do, it tends to work out, even if I don't know what that looks like. Even when I don't think much of my self-worth, I know that I can bet on myself. I know I'm the strongest resource, and I know that I'll figure it out. And I want to stay in this comfortable space, this intentional space. Not comfortable because I'm afraid, but comfortable because I want what I want. And I'm getting what I want. And trusting that what I need is available within this. I don't know what that looks like right now. So I'm trying to cultivate that within myself and remind myself that you're okay because you exist. Do the next right thing in any given moment. Keep this expression, behavior, being the person you want to be. And when you cultivate that mental space early on, you're able to express it easier and bigger in the same way of waking up. Going back to sleep isn't an option. And I think that's the reason like religions have rest times. They don't say you need a good night's sleep. They say you need a day of rest. Because when you're awake, you can't go back to sleep. You have to rest. You have to hold, and you have to decompress, and you have to figure out, you have to give yourself space to figure out what all of this is. Because you're not meant to just push through and power through. You're supposed to do both. And I suppose I'll keep working on that in the meantime. We'll keep it short and sweet today. Thanks for listening to another episode of Unravel with Allison. We've got all the social networks up and running. Feel free to reach out, follow, subscribe, keep in touch, and stay up to date on new episodes. Thank you for being here, and I will catch you next week.